so much fun. I remember hearing Paul laugh because he's off to the right. I remember well into it hearing Dave chuckle, and I didn't know where he was because you don't meet him beforehand.
Yeah.
Remember hearing him chuckle, but you're performing on the stage where the Beatles were, and Elvis and
Topo Gigio.
It's this, all these it's amazing.
Those dogs.
I exactly, the dogs in bed there, and I thought to myself, like, okay, well, this was my moment. Like, what if I just kept going past the end?
Just run the light.
Just keep going and start telling other jokes that I want to, because if you see the movie, that I end up telling a joke I'm very happy with, but it wasn't the first joke I wanted to tell. Like, if they said, hey, you can do anything you want, I wouldn't have picked this joke, but it's the joke they liked. So I had that idea in my head. Like, it's the fun thing about comedy is how much could go through your head at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, just keep going. Just start telling another joke at the end. And what are they going to do? What at some point. But I didn't let that get the best of me and wrapped up on time. And then, of course, the minute you finish, there's a nice applause and everything like that. But then it kind of hit me. Oh my God!
Start shaking a little bit.
Dave's going to be coming up behind me any second here. And and he comes up and you feel a hand on your shoulder, and then he shakes your hand and being up close. And he's dressed like he's supposed to be. I didn't get to see him in like Paul Schaefer in his jeans or a t-shirt or that kind of thing. And I just remember it. Like, even if you see it, you can see it in the movie, or if you see my set on YouTube, you can see I'm like a little kid. I'm like giggling, like laughing, like I can't believe I'm meeting David Letterman here. Yeah. And then he says something nice, and then we go to break, and he asked me something else, and all I remember saying was like, because like he had read a cue card, and it had my name on it, and the Megnag zeros as well, and he like shrugged, and he goes, sure, give him the cue card, like, you know what I mean? So,
that's awesome.
Well, those cue cards are kind of. I was unemployed when Craig Ferguson started his show, and so I went there for like a month, almost every day. And
they're backstage going, is he back?
He's back.
But the warm-up guy, he was really cool to me. And like,
was this Chunky?
Chunky, yeah, a couple times. He would have like, let's see who can dance the greatest in the audience, and I was like his go-to guy because I weighed like about 80 pounds more at the time, so I'd get up and like shaking her up, and then he gave me a box set. I still have it of 24 season 3 for one of my dances, and then he gave me another time a cue card. I said, "Can I have a cue card?" He goes, "Yeah." I still have it. It's like a Michael Jackson pedophile joke. It's so awesome.
Classic.
Yeah.
That's so funny. You were saying leading up to the actual taping. So I just rewatched Comedian, that documentary, Seinfeld, Orny Adams, and you see Orny Adams preparing for his set, and like basically the day of, CBS told me he couldn't use the word lupus,
right?
And that was his like opening joke. And he had to not scrap it, but rewrite it basically in the green room.
Is it going to
work?
Because you don't know if it. I mean, as a comedian, you don't know if it's going to work. And
why did they tell him he couldn't use lupus?
Who knows?
They thought it was the way that I think they explained it is like, oh, we don't want to offend anyone with lupus. Can you make it something more?
The giant demographic.
I don't remember.
Go with a disease that we don't mind offending the people. Syphilis, maybe. Now that would offend the president.
He ended up changing it to psoriasis. Which is still a funny word.
Still good.
I think way more people suffer from psoriasis than lupus.
Well, I think less.
It's less lethal though.
Yes, exactly. But
again,
you don't know as a comedian. You don't know if that's there's so many times one little twist of a word changes a whole thing. You know what I mean? Like Seinfeld himself has a bit about skydiving, and he forever was saying, there was a blind guy that skydived. I'm probably messing up the story, but he was telling the joke, and he'd be like, how does a sky, what do they give the German Shepherd a parachute? And I guess he originally was saying, do they give a dog a parachute? And it wouldn't work. And then when he got specific and said German Shepherd, so you might think, that's inane. What's the difference between saying dog and German? Well, that was just the key.
First rule of comedy: specifics.
Be
don't
specific.
Say candy bar when you can say Snickers.
Snickers, exactly. So,
Snickers. Oh.
So you don't know. Is psoriasis going to be as funny as lupus? It's just proven.
But even more so, like,
depends on your doctor, I guess.
Right, exactly.
How's that diagnosis being delivered?
Yeah,
because I remember seeing that, and as I was probably a year into comedy at that time when that movie came out, and being like, ooh, yeah, what would you do at that point? Yeah,
yeah, it's a bit you've memorized for months, and this is what got you on the show in the last second.
Right. It's funny you don't see it in the movie, but so the night before, I went to 4 clubs with the booker, Eddie Brill, and we ran the set at a bunch of New York clubs, and we chopped about 30 seconds from the joke. There was a whole different intro. It starts with my wife that I'm married and she comes with me if I'm going to nice places. And that's kind of how we get in. I get into the joke. And then Eddie, at one point at the third show out of 4 that night, he goes, I think we could just lose that. He's like, it's funny, but I think it'll be a cleaner one bit. And the same thing like Orny. I was like, I'm not arguing with you that it'll be cleaner, but I don't know. I've never done it like that, so I don't know if it can work that way.
Yeah.
So, it was a little nerve-wracking as well.
Yeah, I'd say so.
To do it the first time on TV like that.
But as a comic from L.A., as long as you're not doing your material over an espresso machine or a smoothie being made, it's a win.
Right, you're ahead of the game for sure.
So then. What was like the immediate afterwards when Letterman claps you on the back, or does he talk to you more afterwards, or is
no? That's the crazy thing. Literally, the show must go on. The Magnetic Zeros are coming on.
Oh wow!
Right after that break, so he says what turns one more time, and he says very funny, shakes my hand. I think he handed me the cue card, and then clapped me on the back and walked away. And then Biff comes and grabs me, pulls me backstage, and then you're kind of like, this is the big moment of my life, but everyone else is just going on with their business.
Didn't
now.
Get to go hang out afterwards or anything?
Well, I ran. I went back up, and I remember that the elevator up there to the dressing room took forever. So I was on such a high. I sprinted up.
Did you cry?
I didn't cry. No. I sprinted up the stairs to the thing, and then the two friends I had that were the documentary filmmakers. Like at that point, I didn't even care about the documentary, like that part of it. I just wanted to share the moment with some friends.
Yeah.
So I piled in, but of course they have the cameras on, so you can see the moment in the movie when I walk into the green room and I'm kind of pumping my fist and excited. But now you're just on a high. But again, everyone else still has to do the show. Yeah. So. I had my mom and a couple friends were in the audience and stuff, but they're watching the rest of the show, so I can't share the moment with them for another 40 minutes or so. By the time
I got emotional watching you do it.
It was crazy.
For 5 minutes, you're on top of the comedy world.
You feel like you really do feel like, oh my god, I'm on top of the world. But then literally, and I say this, I don't know if I say it in the movie, but when people talk about like the cancer angle of it and how do you deal with that stuff, getting that diagnosis. Routine at some level ends up saving you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I remember a week after being diagnosed, and a doctor saying you might not be here in 5 years, being like, oh my god, and a week later, all my everyone's gathered around me, and is saying stuff like, oh my god, we're here for you, and then a week later they're all back to work.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, my wife is back to work, or my girlfriend at the time she's back. Everyone's gone back to their thing, and I'm just thinking about it, and I was like, oh my god, well, this seemed like the end of the world. And now I'm left all alone to think about this, but everyone else has gone back to their... And that hurt it for a second. And then the week after that, I was like, oh my god, I still got to pay rent for these. I still have to work. So the routine, it's shocking at first, but it also saves you. And same thing in that moment. I was on top of the world, but everyone else quickly went back to their jobs, on the show. So... it lasted, obviously, inside. Yeah, everyone's still going about
Dave was back in Connecticut by the time he left the theater.
By the time, right. I was having dinner, for sure.
It's like, hurry, run. She's coming.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned about the routine aspect of helping with illness. And the thing is, I was sick. I've been out of the hospitals for since October of 16.
Yeah.
Other than a very weird New Year's Day this year, but the thing was that the ironic thing is that so when you go in for things like chemo, which I assume you had chemo, then you're in there for days on end, I think, doing these courses, right?
Yeah. So just to clear up, I had because there was no cure or treatment for the kind I had. That's the good and the bad. No treatment or cure, but also never had radiation, never had chemo.
Okay, I'm sorry,
only surgery.
Okay,
that's all I've had is surgery to remove parts of it.
Yeah, because I saw the movie 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I just reread last night. But okay, well then you were fortunate in a lot of ways. Compared to what a lot of people.
Exactly, for sure.
Got it. Okay.
That's in some ways you think, it's terrible there's no cure. Well, that's also what's allowed me after the surgeries and I'm out and you recover from those. I'm like, well, I'm living a day-to-day existence that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is very lucky when you see anyone go through radiation or chemo. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, because I was just wondering, maybe from other people's experience that deal with cancer, but I was in for a very recurring infection problem with my leg, and I was in 30 to 40 times probably at least over a decade, and it just sucks. I mean, you're sitting there like, okay, what's the routine? The routine is memorizing, what the entire daytime schedule. I mean, I could tell you what is on pretty much every local channel from 7 a.m. to midnight. Off
Carl's
the top of my
TV
head.
guide.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, other than that, you're kind of stuck there, which kind of defeats the point of routine or anything like that with people. But I also, when I was in Chicago years ago, I lived there, and I went for 2 years with a friend every Wednesday to perform or visit people, and we would tell jokes if they wanted them for about 3 minutes or so, go visit a little bit at a cancer ward in a hospital. And people just liked having contact. It wasn't so much, hey, did you tell jokes or not, or whatever, you know? But I'm just wondering, do you think that like humor, because her group was called Humor Heals, those of us that would go do it, do you think, has anybody ever said, or do you think that being inherently thinking of funniness all the time has helped you with what you're dealing with?
Yeah, people always ask that, and I don't know. It almost seems. First of all, I'm not a big religious guy. Some people are like, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. I'm not even that. I don't even like church's fried chicken. But I want to think that. You know what I mean? I have no place for faith in my faith. Seems cocky, but I hope I like. You know what I mean? Everyone can have hope, right? There's some power in that, because then no one can prove hope wrong. Mm-hmm. So I hope that's true. I hope that it does heal. I do know this for sure. When people ask that, does it heal? Laughter heal? Whether it does or not, that's the better way to spend, like that. When I got the 5 years or whatever you have, the better way to spend it is laughing, right? Yeah. Like no matter what, no matter if it doesn't heal you in 3 days, well, you spent those 3 days laughing. So it's the better way to choose anyways.
After you got your diagnosis, did you think of material? Did you do cancer material that helped you sort of appropriate that fear and
it's funny. So I had some, and you see some in the movie and in the book. I talk about the first set I sent to Letterman and to the Booker once I got their attention, and there was a joke in there, and they said I remember the Booker being like, yeah, I don't like this, I don't like and it wasn't I on his part. I'll have you ever seen Robert Schimmel? I'm going to go off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
He did the best. He got a cancer diagnosis, and he really nailed the truth of what it is to go with cancer. And he was, a guy 20 years ahead of me in comedy, so he had the chops to do it. Mm-hmm. The jokes I had about cancer at that time, I was 5 years into comedy when this all happened. I just wasn't good enough at that point to take something that harsh or tragic or deep and give it to an audience. Every time I would attempt any seriousness, I had some cancer jokes and about being diagnosed, but they were silly, you know what I mean? Or there was an easy, not an easy, but a twist I know that was for sure going to work at the end to it. You know what I mean? It was more about the joke than the reality of cancer, whereas Schimmel was able to get in real touch with what it was to be diagnosed and your psyche and allow an audience to laugh. A lot of times when I would tell, if I ever did a show for a cancer audience, which would happen a lot, people would, here's a comedian with cancer, let's have him in to talk to our cancer group. They would love the jokes because they could relate to it. But a normal audience would be shocked, be like, oh my God, you can't laugh at that. You can't make fun of that. Yeah. But Schimmel was so good, he could take an audience on a ride to this dark place and get them to laugh about it. But I wasn't good enough at that time. And I don't know that I'm good enough now even for that. I mean, it's such a tough road to get an audience who's not dealing with that. People who have cancer themselves, they're willing to laugh at anything. They've been there. Yeah. I guess there was some stuff, but again, just not good enough.
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing Robert Schimmel do his first set back from severe treatment on Conan, and you were very fortunate that you were able to handle it so smoothly. I mean, God bless the guy. I know he's passed since then. I believe he recurred, for the word is felt like it. Yep. But the thing is, it was really awkward and powerful for him. I mean, he was getting emotional. I remember he had to take a second a couple times, and of course the crowd, cheered him on, and he kept going. But that's got to be a heavy trip. I mean, was any of that on your mind, or were you really able to just block it out as part of the whole? Everything was okay.
Yeah, I think both. You kind of swim in and out of that water of its all encompassing, and then like I